For Pacifica Radio, I'm Scott Baba. Vice President Kamala Harris is now officially the Democratic presidential nominee and will face off against Donald Trump this fall. Donna Warder reports.
Following 5 days of online balloting by the Democratic National Convention delegates that ended Monday night, Vice President Kamala Harris has become the party's presidential nominee.
As your future president, I know we are up to this fight. And when we fight, everyone will say in unison, we win.
The DNC issued a statement saying that 99% of the delegates who had cast ballots voted for Harris, and it says it will formally certify the vote before holding a celebratory roll call at the party's convention later this month in Chicago. Just as soon as President Joe Biden abruptly ended his candidacy, Harris and her team worked quickly to secure backing from the 1,976 party delegates needed to clinch the nomination. An Associated Press survey of delegates nationwide shows Harris locked down the necessary commitment in just 32 hours after Biden's announcement. Donna Warder, Washington.
Meanwhile, Harris picked Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate. 3 people familiar with the decision confirmed the pick to the Associated Press this morning. The Midwestern governor, military veteran, and union supporter has helped enact an ambitious Democratic agenda for his state, including sweeping protections for abortion rights and aid to families. No Republican presidential candidate has carried Minnesota since 1972. Walz has taken on greater national visibility since a 2023 legislative session that he calls one of the most consequential in state history. He was elected chair of the Democratic Governors Association in December. 8 Palestinians have been killed and 7 wounded by Israeli fire during military raids in the occupied West Bank. World leaders are trying to stop tensions in the Middle East from boiling over into a regional war after the killings of a senior Hezbollah commander in Lebanon and Hamas's top political leader in Iran. An Israeli airstrike on a South Lebanon village killed 4 people earlier today. Later, Lebanon's Hezbollah launched a drone attack on North Israel, wounding 2 people. Leaders in Egypt and Turkey say they are exhausting all avenues possible to prevent the Israel-Hamas war from becoming a wider regional conflict. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told his cabinet over the weekend that Israel is already in a, quote, multi-front war with Iran and its proxies. A suspected hate crime has hospitalized a man in Belfast in Northern Ireland during the 7th night of riots in the UK. Police said attackers stamped on the man's head while others tried to shield him from further attacks. Stuart Smith reports.
Around 200 rioters in Belfast threw petrol bombs and burned a police car as protesters took to the street for another night, this time outside an Islamic centre in Belfast. 6 arrests were made in the southwestern English city of Plymouth, with several officers taken to hospital after fireworks and bricks were launched at police trying to keep protesters and counter-protesters apart. The Prime Minister has triggered the Additional Courts Protocol, which allows courts to sit for 24 hours a day to process the hearings of hundreds arrested over the past week. Stuart Smith, London.
Wall Street appears poised to return to less chaotic trading a day after a huge sell-off to start the week. Japan's benchmark Nikkei 225 index soared more than 10%, regaining almost all of the Monday losses that triggered a cascade of tumbling markets from Europe to North America. Futures for the S&P 500 are up 0.8% today, and futures for the Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 0.7%. The technology-laden Nasdaq, which tumbled more than 2% on Thursday and Friday and another 3.4% to start the week, is up 0.9% before the opening bell. Tropical storm Derby has moved menacingly into some of America's most historic southern cities in what is expected to be a prolonged event of torrential downpours and flooding after slamming into Florida with heavy rain and high winds. Record-setting rain from the storm that killed at least 6 people caused flash flooding in Savannah, Georgia and Charleston, South Carolina, among other areas of coastal Georgia and South Carolina. Last night, Savannah Mayor Van Johnson told residents to hunker down and expect a rough day on Tuesday. According to the National Hurricane Center's senior hurricane specialist, Richard Pash, Derby's slow progress is creating extra dangerous conditions as its rain accumulates in a way that wouldn't happen with a faster-moving storm.
We're expecting very heavy rains over portions of the southeastern United States. Rainfall totals as high as 30 inches may occur, and that's going to lead to catastrophic flooding across parts of southeastern Georgia, the eastern half of South Carolina, and southeastern North Carolina through Friday.
Derby made landfall on the Gulf Coast of Florida yesterday as a Category 1 hurricane. I'm Scott Baba for Pacifica Radio.